Hare Krishna. Now, second chapter, 15th verse. Krishna says, Yam hi na vyatayantyete purusham purusharshaba sama dukkha sukham dhiram so amrutatvaya kalpate. So here, no, whoever is not affected, here, no, ete is one word, that is vyatayantyete. Ete is those sense contacts which he told about last time. That is the matra sparshastu kaunteya. Matra sparshastu means, matra means tanmatra. That means the sense of sight, seeing, all these which we access with our organs of the senses. That same thing is referring here as ete. Ete. Previously is already mentioned. These sense contacts, what happens with them? So he says that if a person, Purusham means here, it does not mean only man. It means a human being. Any man or woman who can listen, who can think, who can understand, who is alive to this material world and who has these senses. Purusha Rishabha. Now he is addressing Arjuna as the foremost among men or prince among men. Sama dukkha sukham. So this transitory nature of the joy and sorrow has to be taken it with equanimity of mind, he's saying. Sama dukkha sukham. So when there is any kind of grief or any joy, take it equally, he's saying. Don't be very, very excessively joyful and don't be excessively depressed. Be in a normal state of mind, he's saying. Don't overreact to any situation. Dhiram. Dhiram means a brave man who is having a lot of control on his own senses and mind, who uses his intellect to exercise his will on all the controls of his body and organs. That is also Dhiram. Dihi means the intellect. So Ramayati, who is very much pleased with his own thinking. He thinks and thinks and thinks, and then he finally decides something which gives him also happiness only. Saha, he. Amritatvaya means who gets immortality, who becomes immortal. That is what we call in Vedanta as moksha or salvation. Just now we talked of the body being, always being subject to a change and later it perishes. But the soul does not. So what happens to the soul? So he's saying the soul, when it is ready, it can go to moksha or it can be free from this kind of enmeshments into bodies after bodies. And in each body, it is going to encounter so many kinds of experiences, some agreeable, some disagreeable. And finally, everyone wants a state where they don't have to face this fear, anxiety, and all sorts of things that we are facing in today's world. So if we don't want all this, then we have a state called as moksha, where if we can go to that place, or if we can be in that state, because more of a state of being. So in that state of being, that person who is in that state of being, he is called as Jivan Mukta. Even if he is in this body, he is not affected. He is not affected as other people are. How so? For that also, he is only using these same words, that he is of the equanimity of mind to take both pleasure and pain as something which has coming to me. I cannot change it. It is because of my own attachment to things that I feel the pain or the pleasure. If you don't like it, if you got associated with it and you don't like it, then it causes you pain. If you got associated with it and you like it, then it causes you pleasure. So both of these things are transitory. So a man of intellect who will contemplate on all these things properly, he becomes wise and he understands that these pain and pleasures are to be taken with a pinch of salt. That is, you just don't go and engulf yourself in it. Just stand apart and look on as an onlooker. And then he becomes ready and fit to leave the samsara. Because, you know, the samsara, what the Vedas tell is this world where we live in, where we have this body and the sense organs and relationships and everything here is meant to be like a school for the jiva. As we learn in the school, we learn things and then we pass out of the school and move to higher studies. And there also we learn. So learning is a process that is required. In the human world, we learn so that we might become of some use to the society and to ourselves by earning money and taking care of our families or whatever. But what about the learning in the world? So the learning in the world or the human soul learns, and by that what happens is he is ajnana means a lack of knowledge of the truth. What is the truth is something which is totally hidden from us. So this goes into a deep philosophy where each soul from beginningless time is covered in a shell called as linga sharira, and that is a avarana which does not allow you to see who you are. Do you really know who you are? You don't know. Do you know who God is? No, we don't know. We don't know even whether God exists, some people might say. But based on all this, looking at the nature, looking at the continuous stream of, you know, existence being there, and there is a kind of law which is governing every system in the body, outside the body also, in space also. So we come to conclude that there must be some infinite, very, very powerful, intelligent being who is controlling all these things. Not just one person, but the entire universe is being controlled by one infinite being. So this goes into the deep philosophy, I said. So since we do not know who he is, and we will never fully know him if he is infinite, right? If a person is infinite, I mean anything which is infinite, we cannot reach an end of it. However much you know about it, still there's left more things to know. So that is the infinity concept. And infinite nature of the intelligent being may not be known at any time, but certainly certain part of it can be known according to the eligibility of that person who's searching. And he should know about himself. Who am I? So these two things are obscuring us, are obscured from us. And by the experience in the world and understanding of what is the truth, that is removed from us. Something is obscuring it. So what is that which is obscuring it? It is the ignorance. So that can be removed only by contemplation on the truth. So the truth is what is being told here in the Bhagavad Gita, that souls are permanent, but they do get bodies. And the body changes from baby to adult and then he passes, but the soul remains. And the soul takes on another body and then another and then another. So what is the end of this? So he says Amrutatva is the end. If you can be in that state of mind where you are not affected by any of this like sorrow and joy, then you will be at that stage, you would have learned what has to be learned, he's saying. Because this Dhira is a person who has learned, his intellect is very much working and he is obtaining a lot of happiness by exercising it. By thinking, he is very happy. So he understands the truth and then he becomes happy. It does not require this happiness which we are talking of in this context of Dhira is not the same that you would expect from the sense contact. Because sense contact is gone, then you don't feel happy about it. Suppose you like an ice cream. So as long as you're eating the ice cream, it might give you joy. But once it is over, then that's it. After 2-3 hours, you will start feeling hungry again. It might cause you pain also if you had some kind of tooth pain or something like that. So it is not a surety and it is not permanent and it does not affect everyone in the same way. Some people might not like to eat it also. But this happiness, which we are talking of in Dhira, that will come to any person who can exercise his intellect in the proper way, who thinks correctly and who deeply contemplates on the truth. That person becomes happy, he says. So his happiness is different because it is coming from within him. It is not coming from the contact of the sense. So that dhira, to reach that place, he has to give up this, he says. Until and unless he gives up this hankering for the desires for the worldly pleasures, he will never come to that place where he can see both of them as equal or with an equanimity of mind, that is sukha and dukkha, which are in the world and which are temporary. Once he passes that stage, he'll come to this stage. That is what he's saying. For this, you need the lack of that attachment or abhimana. Attachment in itself is not the fault, but that attachment makes you feel that it's mine. So that me and mine concept, it becomes stronger and stronger, and that is the main cause for him to keep continuing transmigration in the world. To be in to reach that state of amrutatva, he needs to get this state, he's saying. So here he gives one final, uh, it's not final, it's just a beginning, but he gives us an introduction about the final state of the soul, which is amrutatva. Amrutatva means, mriti means death. Amruti means not having death. So a person having death or not having death is not possible in the, I mean, not having death is not possible in this form. He already told that Sharira is there, it will die. But the Jiva remains. So this Jiva is immortal. And he reaches that state where he doesn't have to die even in the Sharira. That is why Amrutatva is used. Having the Sharira and then not having it, again having another one. This is the transmigration, which he will not have once he acquires the knowledge that he has come here for. The Lord has sent everyone to acquire that, he says. So once that is reached, then he doesn't need to ever worry about getting another body at all. So he'll not die, he says. So here the main method of achieving that state is told very briefly. Future, he will be telling about all the nuances of how to discard that feeling of me and mine. Even after listening to all that, it's not going to be any kind of breezy or easy way to do it. But over many, many lifetimes, if a person practices in one lifetime, then slowly and slowly it keeps coming back to him. Just in the school, if you pass the 10th and you go to another university, I mean, after grade 10, you will get admission to the next level and then you can go to the next level in this lifetime. But in another lifetime, if you are a PhD in this lifetime also, you cannot become directly PhD in another lifetime. But in the spiritual world, it's not like that. Whatever you have learned in your previous janma, you will start from there, Krishna says. So you don't have to worry. If you have learned something in this life about the truth of the soul, about the greatness of God, about this beautiful world, then that will remain with you. If you have contemplated enough, then it will remain with you. So you can start off from there, he says. So over many, many lifetimes, then the soul becomes in that state of mind where he accepts anything without that feeling of why did I get this or why I should have to go through this. So these kind of things, if they're still coming to us, that means we are not able to take it with an equanimity of mind. But once that state is reached, then he is free forever, he says. Okay, Hare Krishna.